Welcome to episode 7 of Real Estate Connections podcast. We've had a great time in our first 6 episodes, and I wanted to recap those episodes with you and talk to you about future episodes and how I can be responsive to what you're interested in. So first and foremost, please follow this show, subscribe, write a review, and tell your friends about it if you find this information very helpful. Okay, so 6 episodes already done. I can't believe it. And we're having fun. And it's amazing to me how broad, how many issues we can cover to be a content source on this podcast. And once again, our goal is to be a source of content on a range of issues to identify some really magnificent professionals across the country and into Canada. And then lastly, to help you realize your real estate dream. So that's kind of our goal, our discussion. So we've had very first episode, Tim Robinson, whom I've had on a few times, and you'll see why. And Tim, I marvel at because he's an investor, an untrained investor who over 10 years has acquired, quote, 11 doors, 11 units. And he has done it so well and so carefully, a way that other people can follow. Then we followed up with Tony Cardinelli, and everybody likes to talk about money, right? Money. And Tony is with Cross Country Mortgage, which is, I think, a national firm, and he's here in Massachusetts, and a wealth of information about, especially for first-time homebuyer programs, and they vary state to state, but also ways that lenders can work with you to help you in your certain circumstances. And I have a quote from Tony that I'm going to share at the end of this episode. Then we visited with Danny Cole. Danny Cole is with Spartan Investments, LLC in Alabama. Now, I got to Danny through Tim because Tim has invested in what's called some turnkey properties, which means he's not the landlord. He buys a property that is really good to do financially, really prosperous financially. And he found Danny, and Danny is one of a number of really good turnkey companies. So these companies find properties, they bring them up to a really good level of condition. They sell it to you, and then they manage it. So Carl and I own a property through, in this case, through Spartan, and we are really happy with our investment. And it's totally hands off, called Turnkey. So we talked about the concept first, and then we came back another episode and talked about how you finance it. And I really recommend that to you. It's a wonderful way to take a look at how you can be involved in real estate without having to buy a $600,000 house down the street. And so do listen to it. It's a lot of fun. We had Susan Runyon on from Hertfordshire, England, to talk about decluttering. And she's a kind of an interior therapy expert, also known as feng shui. And we're going to have her back. After she talked about decluttering, all I could think about was starting with my closet, just like she said. And we'll have her back and talk about feng shui. And you think, well, what is that? That's an ancient Chinese kind of approach to energy, as energy flows through your world and your rooms. And while you may not believe in it, some of people are really, really affected by how buildings are located. I think maybe a good example is, what is that restaurant that has turned over 5 times? Why has that restaurant turned over 5 times? I bet there's a good feng shui answer to that, and maybe a fix. So we'll have Suzanne back. We're going to be hearing from Mariette, and Mariette is Mariette on the Move. She's an expert in relocating. Now, we want to hear about relocating because let's say you are facing retirement and you're going to move out of Massachusetts and you're going to go to San Diego, and that's a big, big move. Or you're going to move up to Maine, to the coast. So what is it that you need to know, and what are some of the risks? And Marriott's going to focus a little bit on kind of fraud risks associated with moving. And I guess there are a number of them. And then we're going to talk another episode with some other experts, particularly maybe the over 60 market, and what you need to do and think about before you move out of your home of 30 years or so or longer, and what's needed there. There's an issue called affordable housing. Well, that so few people have been able to enter the real estate market as owners because there's been so little inventory. Well, 19 states so far, have written laws that allow property owners to put a unit on their property, attached to their property, or already within the property. In different states I've worked in, they've talked about in-law apartments, right? And there were always restrictions, always restrict. No, you can't have a stove, whatever. Now states are having to take a look at, do I have enough housing for my people? Do we have enough housing for that new building, that new headquarters that's coming into our state? And most often there isn't affordable. So you accessory dwelling units is what the legislation is called. Advocates have been out there promoting it. Some states are way ahead, like California. My state, Massachusetts, relatively new law, still being worked out through the cities. And we're actually going to have the author of that legislation on the podcast, Representative Jim Arciero, and such an enthusiastic person for affordable housing. Affordable meaning, I own this property here. We have 2 acres. I don't know why, but we could put a unit on there. We could rent it. We could move out of our house and move into it. It can't be more than 900 square feet in the state of Massachusetts, and each state has its rules. And rent this house or hand it over to a family member. So there are many, many ways of making use of space that we have: attic, basement, attachment. So I'm going to have more than one episode on accessory dwelling units. This is just the beginning of lots of content development for Real Estate Connections podcast. And I'm going to rely on you. Please, please, please drop me a note at info@realestateconnectionspodcast.com. Tell me what you'd like to hear. I'm going to try to get people in regionally. We know what's housing like in San Francisco Bay, or I don't know if I could afford it for sure. What does it cost to rent? Why are the rents so high in Dallas and Boston and New York, and a new college graduate or a young family moving in? What can they afford? So we'll be taking a look at a lot of different subjects going forward. I welcome your input. But I do want to give you a comment that was made by Tony Cardinelli in the very second episode, in which I said, so Tony, how do people find really good lenders like you? And he said, Mary, well, the best way to get to lenders like me is through a strong realtor. And that's the other focus of this podcast, is to identify people who have certain qualities and skills who can help you with your real estate dream. Now, you all won't be running to Tim Robinson down in Washington, D.C. area to buy a house. But what are the qualities that Tim has that you can find in where you are? Or we can help you possibly find those people as well. So please, please, please provide some input. Let us know what you want to see on this podcast. It's open. It's an open book right now. And I do welcome your comments. Thank you so much, and keep following. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you found this conversation useful to you and your real estate goals. You'll find the contact information for our guests and any links they recommend you have in the show notes. And should we be able to help you identify some strong real estate professionals in your area, drop us a note at info@realestateconnectionspodcast.com. Thanks again, and bye for now.